Other guys, God bless each and every one of you, you and yours. Hoping that you've been able to see some of the morning articles, some of those headlines in our kind of like read all about it section. There you'll find at least sort of like 10 sort of like front page covers, articles relating to end times, things that are all gearing towards us finally being able to get out of here. And then in the actual description itself, in the community section post, you'll also just find, you know, sort of like between 30 and 40 sort of like, you know, alternative articles, different bits and bobs for us to be looking at Israel, looking at the digital public infrastructure, the beast system, and some of the key players as well. So if you're wanting to sip on that whilst you're having your coffee in the morning, then you can. If you're a content creator, please go and help yourself and get a bit of a refresh as to literally what's happening around the globe. Some of those resources are from multiple sources that I've found over the years. So if you've not seen that as well, we're starting to sort of like increase our sort of like workload, our payload, as much as doubling our efforts over here. So going to be starting out with our morning live, and then we'll have a few hours break and a few hours rest, and then we'll come back again for something else that the Lord has for us to discuss. But this morning, we're going to be looking at the leaked NASA memo reveals 3IAtlas isn't a comet, it's under active vector control. Seen quite a lot of the storylines relating to this. There was a kind of article in our community post relating to Trump literally summoning all of his generals, summoning all of these officials, as well as these from other nations as well. Could that be something that they're not alluding to? But here we go. We have a very interesting leaked sort of like memo from NASA. Let's bear in mind, shall we, that NASA also means in Hebrew deception. And so we've known about these guys, but an interesting article, interesting read as well, especially when you consider movies that they do the revelation of the method. You know, don't look up how primed we've been, you know, prepared for this inevitable alien invasion. Some people saying, oh no, they're already here already, we're not alone. Others say that they want to believe. Others say that actually they've got headquarters and UFO bases underwater. I suppose if you really were going to be hiding, that's the place that you probably want to be. So going to be looking at this article from a few sort of like angles. The leaked NASA memo reveals 3IAtlas isn't a comet, it's under active vector control. There was another article coming out in August, and this one was astronomers claim interstellar visitor 3IAtlas is generating its own light using alien technology. There's been discussions about this thing literally sort of like changing its course, discussions about it slowing down, discussions about sort of like vapor trails that really are the wrong way around. They're sort of like at the front as opposed to at the rear, at the back, as well as other lights and technology that just doesn't seem to be quite adding up. So we're going to be covering and exposing at least some of the rumorings in and around this. But Harvard's Avi Loeb, the same scientist who rocked the establishment with his claims about interstellar object Muama, whatever that is, now says the newly discovered 3IAtlas appears to be generating its own light using alien technology. Just giving you the previous article from last month. Really important that we do this when we have our lives, guys. We don't just read one article out. We don't just go to one source. That actually, as you'll find out later on with the post that will follow this, there will be multiple other sources that will confirm that some of this been looked at from different angles and different perspectives. It's important that we work to a degree here where what we offer and what we report on as a Watchman's channel is beyond contestation, which is the very reason why there's so much information that follows after the live, as well as the information that we cover as well. So this is the backdrop stuff. So that's right, you heard it, not reflecting sunlight like every comet in the textbooks, but glowing on its own. And while mainstream astronomers scramble to explain this away, calling it a weird comet with dust outgassing, others are asking, is this alien technology sliding through our solar system under the cover of science? Just want to bring to your attention and remembrance Project Bluebeam as well, and what that is really all around, the fake alien invasion and the likes. I'll put the video in for you later for you to have a little look-see at. But this is also what could be geared up, the false sort of like rapture and the false messiah that they literally have, and connecting everybody to the internet of body and the internet of things. And then all of a sudden, with all these holograms everywhere and everything all going off, apparently whatever country you're in will be the deity of that nation, and that deity will be able to have this two-way direct interface conversation. You'll be able to hear its voice, all of this sort of stuff that literally is the brain computer interfaces is literally there. It all sounds very cuckoo and very whack, but when you actually watch the video, and I hope you do after our live, that is exposing Project Bluebeam, then you'll get to see some of the video clips that are in there that are absolutely mind-blowing, because in any other situation, the technology is so amazing. That's the only way you can describe it, that you would literally believe it. When you've got dolphins, sort of like blowing up into swimming pools and into sort of like netball courts, and then you've got them flying overhead like some sea sort of like wildlife thing. The technology really is there, guys. It reminds me of this sort of like Doctor Strange stuff with whatever he does, but that's part and parcel of all of this. So some saying, like it says, that this has its own sort of like glow about it. Or even more disturbing is the whole thing a psyop to prepare the masses for a fake alien invasion. We've been so groomed for it. What was it, President, Ronald Reagan turned around and said, all we need is one of these sort of like external threats and alien invasions, and then we'd all be a lot more collective, or was the effect, as foretold by numerous CIA and agency insiders over the decades. Images from the Hubble Space Telescope revealed a sun-facing Comet, a glow in the wrong direction, but no visible tail. Loeb argues the brightness profile falls far off too sharply for normal sunlight scattering. In his words, only a self-illuminating source can explain such a steep decay, Loeb explained. Translation: this thing isn't just reflecting light, it appears to be powering itself. If Loeb is right, then 3IAtlas is not the 20-kilometer rock NASA first claimed, but a tiny artificial craft less than 100 meters across. Now we're getting into the sort of like arguments over how big this thing really is. Predictably, the establishment rushed to discredit Loeb's claims. Almost immediately, NASA-linked astronomers pointed to ultraviolet emissions of water vapor detected by the Swift Observatory, along with OH gas in the Comet. Their message was clear: this is nothing more than a comet. Case closed. Our researchers followed suit. Jewett and colleagues published a paper claiming the nucleus was no bigger than 2.8 kilometers. That estimate conveniently shrank from the original 20-kilometer size, and it just happened to come after Loeb raised the possibility of alien technology. Even the debrief, which acknowledges that 3IAtlas is paradoxical due to its lack of typical cometary gases, still bent over backwards to insist the object must be natural. In other words, pay no attention to the Harvard astronomer behind the curtain. Out in the open internet, not everyone is so quick to dismiss the anomaly. On Reddit's r space, users mocked Loeb with predictable cynicism. Quote, lots of astronomers wondering how long it would be before Avi Loeb claimed it was an alien spacecraft. He's 100% convinced that's literally everything is aliens. But even the critics admit something doesn't quite add up with this. The object shows reddened dust, missing gases, and activity at 6.4 AU, a distance far too cold for normal water-driven sublimation. If this really is a comet, why is it behaving like no other comet ever recorded? And I just want to bring to your attention, and some of you might remember this, okay, 8 years ago, okay, when everything was coming out about the Revelation 12 sign, okay, on the 23rd of September at 4:23 p.m. All right, that was a time that the Revelation 12 sign was at its most prominent, with the moon underneath her feet. But there was also another sign there as well, guys, and it very much was a red dragon. And you could go into, Google Sky or whatever, and you can go in. You used to be able to go into that. You'd be able to tap in the constellations at the bottom. And then in the top right hand screen, you can literally put that all into infrared, and then you could literally see what NASA had initially done to this thing right next to the birthing canal almost of Virgo. Just like we read in Revelation 12 about the second sign in the heaven, the red dragon ready to devour the child as soon as it was born. And then they put like a little black sort of like square over it, and obviously started to move closer to that birthing canal. And by that time, loads of people have taken videos. Dabu 7 basically did some great work covering some of that. Still got the videos out there at the moment, and no one was really talking about that end time sign. And now we've got this sort of like interstellar comet that doesn't seem to be quite like a comet, is sort of like changing its own course, which is a little bit troubling, slowing down as well. Hello, isn't that what we've seen through movies? It's a case of, don't worry about it, man. It's just an asteroid, or it's just a comet. Yeah, but it's slowing down. What gives with all of that? And now having sort of like different light sources, different emissions from that. Is this another one of the sort of like deceptions to keep us all guessing? Is this what they're literally trying to put out? Like, oh no, they're starting to discover our demonic plan of depopulation and, the climate lie, and dividing up the world into 10 kingdoms as per the prophet Daniel, as per the Club of Rome's stealing it from them. Oh no, they're getting too cottoned on about the sort of like chemtrails and the sort of like aero vaccine that we're doing without people's consent. So we'll do it at nighttime when people are asleep and think that they won't notice anything. And then they'll lay all of those things down in the morning after they've done everything at night, and then they'll rainmaker it and just like, rain all over it. So it goes into the crops, goes into the soils, and just ruins it for generations. It's part of their plan, isn't it? So is this what they're also doing? Back to the old adage, alien invasion, alien invasion. Really interesting. I'm going to read some more out about this. Oeb and colleague Eric Keto pushed the conversation even further in their latest paper. Still unreviewed, meaning free of establishment gatekeeping. That's awesome. They suggest that 3IAtlas could be possibly hostile alien technology. Sending out all of these probes, sending out everything else as well, having all of this sort of like Thanos mentality, is it not? How, we need other people's sort of like, interventions to deal with the affairs of man. Surely that'll be the lie as well that'll be told. Mainstream voices wasted no time branding this nonsense. It's the same word they've used again and again, whether dismissing early reports of UFOs, Havana syndrome, or other so-called conspiracies that later proved far more real than officials first admitted. So that's the backdrop sort of like article relating to astronomers claiming the interstellar visitor 3IAtlas is generating its own light using alien technology. But before we get into our main article for today, covering out what that is and the leaked memo coming from NASA, what does the Holy Word of God say? Hey, let's say hello to you lot. Hello. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Alison. Thank you for being here, guys. Bless you. Hi there, enlightened from above. It's a rock. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Do you know what I mean? If it is aliens, then Earth is in big trouble. Seriously, absolutely. It all seems to be happening in and around, what was it, the 3rd of October, the closest point to the sun or whatever. Other people are saying, well, it's another Jubilee. I'm like, come on, man. Whatever. If it's not a Jubilee, it's the arc thing. If it's not that, it's a case of, oh no, wrong calendar, Julian Gagarin, my bad, oops. It's kind of like, come on. If it is that, then I am suspecting that they've got to have some narrative. So it might be circling around and waiting for us to be gone. And then all of a sudden, Project Bluebeam. These aliens are nothing but fallen angels. Hi, Mike. Good to see you. Much love to you, buddy. Thank you for being here. So let's go to the Word of God. What does the Word of God say about the potential of aliens? Well, in Ezekiel 1 through 28, we read, in the 30th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day of the month, as I was among the exiles by the Chebar Canal, the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. On the 5th day of the month, it was the 5th year of the exile of King Jehoiachin, the word of God came to Ezekiel the priest, the son of Buzi, in the land of the Chaldeans by the Chebar Canal, and the hand of the Lord was upon him there. Here you go. As I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, and a great cloud with brightness around it, and fire flashing forth continually. That's not the average cloud, is it? You think of sort of like, sort of like Independence Day and that sort of like, mothership coming out of the clouds, and in the midst of the fire, as it were gleaming metal. You know what I mean? And from the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and there was the appearance. They had a human likeness. That's Ezekiel 1 through 28 right there, guys. Read it out again. Ezekiel 1:4. As I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, and a great cloud with brightness around it, and flashing fire forth continually, and in the midst of the fire, as if it were gleaming metal. Isaiah 13:5. They come from a distant land, from the end of the heavens. The Lord and the weapons of his indignation, to destroy the whole land. Again with Isaiah 60 verse 8. Who are these that fly like a cloud and like doves to their windows? Still with Isaiah 45:12. I made the earth and created man on it. It was my hands that stretched out the heavens, and I command all their hosts. Do we need to go anywhere near Ephesians 6:12? Well, here we go. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Do you know what I mean? Hello. Hebrews 11:13. These all died in faith, not having received the things promised, but having seen them and greeted them from afar, and having acknowledged that they were strangers and exiles on the earth. Very interesting verses there that we read. You can't really sort of like argue with how Ezekiel puts it in Ezekiel 1, can you? Yeah. As I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, and a great cloud with brightness around it, and fire flashing forth continually, and in the midst of the fire, as it were gleaming metal, and from the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had a human likeness. Leave that with you. Okay, let's look at the article of the day that we're going to be exploring, guys. Here you go. Leaked NASA memo reveals 3IAtlas isn't a comet, it's under active vector control. Don't even know what vector control is, but let's explore, shall we? A shocking internal memo allegedly, let's just use that word again, allegedly leaked from NASA has surfaced on the dark web, hinting that the mysterious object known as 3IAtlas may not be a natural comet at all. For months, amateur astronomers and sky watchers have reported strange behavior from the object, unexplained acceleration, sudden changes in trajectory, and even the abrupt shutting down of live NASA feeds when the object came into view. Many speculated about a cover-up. Now, this memo appears to confirm their suspicions. Mainstream astronomers are now cautiously stating the object could be an artificial craft on a voyage to Earth. Because there's no intelligent life down here, really, is there? And Harvard's Avi Loeb is sounding the alarm, urging humanity to take the potential threat with the utmost seriousness. Bring it. Do you know what I mean? What makes 3IAtlas even stranger, as if, but okay, is that leaked data shows active course corrections, that's troubling, and narrowband signals at the hydrogen line, a frequency long associated with attempts to detect extraterrestrial intelligence. Here we are going to look at the leaked memo. I'll put this in the description box for you so you can get your laughing gear around this, literally. Okay, it is says here below is the leaked memo in full, as posted to a restricted dark web board this week. I kind of like that. All right, my sort of like tinfoil hat sort of like peaks up with interest when it's like that. If you want to go plastering this around and everywhere onto CNN and these like Daily Star and the Sun and the BBC and these other sort of like lame things like Fox News or whatever, you want to go putting this up to Fox News, fair enough. You're going to lose half your audience the second that you do that. All right, but you go putting this up on the dark web and onto dark boards as well. Okay, and it is like literally for internal NASA use only. Some dudes, you know, what you know, has wanted to cover their tracks a little bit more. So all of a sudden I'm a bit like, actually I might want to have a look at that. And when you get NASA's own feeds getting interrupted by this, that's telling as well. So here you go. It says here on the 8th, oh, I hate it. Everyone puts the dates the wrong way around, isn't it? The 2nd of August. Okay, so on the 2nd of August this year, all right, this was literally posted up, and it says anomalous behavior and classification update. Do not distribute. Level 5 clearance required. Have you got level 5 clear? I ain't. Here we go. The summary of this. The object previously designated as Comet Atlas exhibits accelerative properties, very troubling, inconsistent with Newtonian predictions. Preliminary analysis indicates non-gravitational influences of unknown origin. Surface scans suggest highly reflective composite material, spectral anomalies recorded. This is like proper memo, man. Action items. Here we go. Suspend all public discussion of objects outside scripted narrative. No, they wouldn't do that, really, would they? They wouldn't censor things like this. Surely they'd be a little bit more transparent. Surely they'd be a little bit more forthcoming with their information and be a little bit more congruent in how they conduct themselves. I find that very hard to believe. Redirect external communications to standard Comet disintegration protocol. They've even got a protocol for this. Redirect, usher it away, neutralize, this is troubling, neutralize unauthorized dissemination on digital platforms. Back to that censorship, isn't it? Neutralize. And it says in confidential, confidential's in bold font. They've even got the sort of like, you know, I think nearing on the 18 style. They really wanted to get this to the point, of course, shouting at you with this by saying this, look, object appears to be under active vector controls. Still don't know what active vector controls are. Maintain operational silence. Further intelligence pending from DSN and NORAD intercept. End of memo. Right, so the anomaly summary: unscheduled vector deviation detected during routine tracking sweep on the 30th of July. Object exhibited an instantaneous delta V event inconsistent with expected gravitational influence from solar or planetary bodies. The magnitude and direction of course alteration suggest active propulsion or controlled maneuvering. That I understand. They've got to stupefy this a little bit for me, all right? That I understand. Some dudes in this comet going, oh, sorry, yeah, we're going to shoot that. We're going to smash into Mars if you're not careful. Mind Musky Boy's satellites. Do you know what I mean? You know, here we go. And then it turns around and says the signal data. All right, the bandwidth is something else. The signal strength is something else. It's boring, sort of like, you know, MHZs and whatever they've got. The pattern is repeating narrowband bursts every 142 seconds. So it's literally sort of like auto-correcting almost. It says decoding attempts have failed. Non-terrestrial coding sequence suspected. Then it goes to the telemetry analysis. The accelerating vector is 13 degrees off predicted orbit path. That's quite a veer. Do you know what I mean? Residential drift. It's sort of like, you know what I mean, skidding around on this thing. Woohoo! Residential drift, non-detected. Course stabilized post-maneuver. Okay. Energy source, unknown. No detectable thermal plume or mass ejection consistent with cometary activity. So it's basically not a comet. And then it says reflectivity index 0.83 comparable to metallic alloys. And apparently they turn around and say this thing weighs like something like 33 billion tons or something like that. 33? Really? Freemason style? Wow. And then it goes, look, action notes. Da, 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 da. Initiate narrative containment protocol 9.2. Comet disintegration cover story. So this is what can you imagine this? Just put anything, initiate narrative containment protocol. There are no chemtrails. Do you know what I mean? It's all contrails. Yeah, right. Suspend live public feeds of tracking data. And it tells you the date they even implemented that on the 31st of July. Forward encrypted packet to NORAD and USSF for object threat classification update. The preliminary assessment object is non-natural in origin. The potential risk window T plus 17 days from an anomaly event. All right. This is when we get into some of this. All right. The dark web reactions. Oh no. Some of the comments attached to the leak are as chilling as the memo itself. Here we go. OP is not wrong. Object is not natural. We call it class 7. Instructions were given to keep narrative contained. Public cannot know. Check DSN anomaly reports before it disappears. 17 days until first major orbital deviation. Don't ask how I know. This account will be gone soon. Check the skies yourself. Its acceleration has been logged by amateur astronomers. NASA scrubbed 2 live feeds last week. Why? Because it made a course correction on camera. Natural bodies don't end up doing that. And another user added, quite like these users because they've got the red switch on a bit. The object designated blah, 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 is exhibiting characteristics that cannot be explained by any known natural body. Current telemetry indicates an anastrophic gravitational field distribution, which strongly suggests artificial origin and controlled maneuvering capability. Signal analysis confirms persistent emissions at 1420.4058 megahertz, the hydrogen line. Now you know why I do that, because why? With a repeating sequence that does not conform to any known astrophysical source. So even these sort of like real sort of like space geeks, they're sort of like, yeah, this ain't looking normal, guys. The intervals appear to follow non-random prime factor patterns, implying intentional encoding. More concerning, really, after all that, okay, is the latest DSN report on trajectory modifications. Here you go. The object is projected to enter a stable language region between Earth and the Sun, which will have measurable effects on the Earth's orbital parameters. Even a minor alteration in the semi-major axis will disrupt climate cycles satellite operations, and global navigation systems. Is this what this is all really all about? All right. We've been, you go back to Klaus Schwab and what he was saying about them having cyber attacks, and imagine what this was all going on. Is this what they're literally going to be doing? Shutting the internet down. Oh, I'm sorry. Everything's been crashed. We're going to have digital IDs, digital passports, CBDCs. We're going to have this great resets. Oh, no, sorry, you've lost all of your money. You've lost all of your stuff or whatever. Is this what this is really all about? Oh, you're not going to be able to use the internet now without these devices. Oh, there you go. Have it. Oops. Is this what we're looking at? By the warning turning around and saying this will disrupt climate cycles. All right, so you're going to be weaponizing the weather against us and then blaming it on this, are you? Is that what Augustus is going to be doing with Peter Thiel and the like? Satellite operations? Ah, well, there you go. And then look, and global navigation systems as well. Oh no, we've had this accidentally crash into this place. Oh no, we've had a Black Swan 9/11 style inside job. It's nothing to do with us. It's all the Comet. You see where things really get to when you can't trust individuals. This continues. This is not a localized problem. The cascading impact on power grids, there you go, logistics and agricultural planning will result in systemic failures if left unaddressed. These implications have likely prompted the containment measures and restricted dissemination you are seeing now. The recommendation: treat public narratives of Comet disintegration with caution. The official posture does not reflect the classified internal assessments. That account was deleted 11 minutes later. If authentic, this memo is the most direct evidence yet that NASA and the US government know 3IAtlas isn't a comet at all. The hydrogen line emissions, the active course corrections, and it's slowing down as well. The internal directives also to neutralize unauthorized dissemination all point to a coordinated cover-up. Skeptics will demand proof, but with accounts disappearing and live feeds going dark, the question isn't if, but when the public will see undeniable evidence for themselves. We'll continue to monitor the dark web forums and amateur astronomer networks for further updates on this. So here you have the leaked memo. NASA's turning around and saying that 3IAtlas isn't a comet. Back again to literally NASA being deceptive. A lot of people don't necessarily want to sort of like have this sort of like conversation in and around this. They don't want this on top of everything else that they've got going on. But is this what they're also using, like we said before, where they just really do enjoy, do they not, bringing in this old adage, the alien invasion, just when things get a little bit too close to the bone, as people start to gather momentum in their protests, as they start to sort of like unpack and look into everything else that they're doing. Is this one of those, false flag events? Very interesting that this was posted onto the dark web. I find that more interesting than being given to another particular, news resource. It's important, guys, that we not only look up for the Lord as well, but as we read out in, Ezekiel 1:4, as I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, and a great cloud with brightness around it, and flashing fire forth continually. And in the midst of the fire, it were gleaming metal. It's in scripture. A lot of people say the wheel within the wheel as well, also in Ezekiel. So that's something for us to be maybe having a little very mindfulness in and around as that sort of like comes about. Ordinarily, I think a lot of people were thinking, well, we'll be out of here by then. And this is maybe something for those that are around. This could very well be something pertaining to, Project Bluebeam. Could be something pertaining to that red dragon that they literally erased, and then they took down the whole platform so that you can't search for that yourself. Go over to Dabu77 and type in the Revelation 12 red dragon and see that for yourself. And you'll find that that's what they didn't want people to be looking at. They don't want you guys looking up at the sky. And then you've got all these generals and all these commanders from all over the world. I don't think they're necessarily just meeting so that they can talk about, Vlad Putin. Maybe there's something more sinister. Maybe we need to be keeping our eyes on the skies as well. I'll leave that to you. Thank you guys for your company. Really good that you were able to join us today. A little bit of a short one. Let's not thrash this out unnecessarily. I'll put these 2 articles in the description box for you and the thumbnail for our live. And then shortly after, there'll be sort of like another 10 images just supporting some of this with some further information, additional information. And I would encourage you guys to actually be a little bit sort of like, mindful in around the possibility of this, Project Bluebeam that's there. Even if we're talking about it, when you see the videos and you see the clips that are in that video, you would be like, wow, that could deceive literally anybody. And you start doing this in sort of like some of the developing countries, and all of a sudden they're going to believe that there's a deity there. They're going to believe whatever it is that they're shown. It's a really great way to usher in all of this. So let's keep an eye on these stories, even though they might be a little bit sort of like tongue in cheek. We've read from the Bible as well what Ezekiel saw, and we're able to see this with our own eye through astronomy, through telescopes, through various other satellite images and everything else. What's the difference? Well, we shall soon find out. God bless you guys, and we'll talk again in a few hours. All right, bye-bye now.